Hello, everybody. It is Wednesday evening, which means we are back with a Wind Down Wednesday episode. I'm so excited to be here with my colleague, Rachel, and we will be back in about 30 seconds. So go ahead and grab what you need, and we'll see you back here. All right. Good evening, everybody. Rachel, I'm so happy to hang out with you. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Just busy right now.
Yes. Back to
How
school.
are you, Carly?
I'm good. Back to school season is nuts, isn't it? Like it's just there's always so much.
Yes. You think we have like a little lull, like, oh, we ease into the school year. It's not, but it is just going.
Yes. It's like going from 0 to 100, like real quick.
Yeah.
Real quick. Oh my goodness.
We're all going to be really cheering on that fall break we get here in a couple more weeks.
Yes. That's right. So it is. It's like fall. Fall doesn't officially start until what? I don't even know the date.
21st, 20th?
Yeah, something like that. But I know like all the coffee places have done the pumpkin drink. Everyone's bringing back pumpkin everything.
Yes.
Are you team pumpkin? Do you love pumpkin everything?
I mean, like, I'm okay with it, but I'm not I got to run out and get it every day kind of a thing.
Yes. See, and I'm not into like the pumpkin coffees. I love a pumpkin muffin. I love pumpkin baked goods. Like pumpkin muffins, pumpkin donuts. Like that's my jam.
I'm just loving right now the weather change and like the wind. It's probably noisy. I live close to a high, but I don't care. The windows open. It's just been such a delight.
Yes, I do agree. I'm a summer person, but I love having windows open. You can't do that in the summer. It's just too hot.
You can't.
It's too hot. And can I show you my mug before we start? Because I got
Yes.
new mug. And I'm so excited about it. Somebody posted it on like Instagram or something like that. And they're like, all the, the Starbucks are getting their Halloween merch. And I was like, I didn't even realize this is a pumpkin.
I was wondering when you first held it up, I was like, I had to really see the lines.
Yeah.
But yeah. How fun.
I know. I'm so excited about it. I wasn't going to go out and look for it. Like I was like, I cannot buy any more water bottles or mugs. I just have way too many. So I'm not going, like I'm going to just close my eyes. And then I walked into a Target like a day or two ago and they were setting them out. And I was like, all right, I'm going to buy it.
Yeah, I got out some fall decorations and I was like, I think I need to purge a smidge. Like I don't need this much stuff. My husband makes fun of like the seasonal bins in our basement. Like,
yep. It's like the changing of the guard, right? Like we gotta take down all of the summer stuff. So speaking of new, seasons and all of these great things, this Friday, so in 2 more days, it is the official start day of Hispanic Heritage Month.
yes.
It runs from September 15th through October 15th. And so tonight's topic is all about Hispanic Heritage Month and the both. It's the honoring the month and celebrating the month and also stretching beyond the month. So it's both. It's
both and Venn diagram thing that we could spend hours on, but we'll save the viewers that.
I love it, but it's so true, right? It's like both exist at the same time. Like we respect it and we want it to hold its place, but we also know, right? Like it's just so important for all of us, regardless of our role in education, to like stretch beyond the holidays and heroes and really look at like honoring everybody's identities all year long in everything we do.
Exactly. You know, it really, when you when you text me that like, let's talk about this, I was like, yeah, I'm in it. And it really reminded me of something I had seen Dr. Jose Medina share a couple of years ago around sociocultural competence and that goal in our dual language programs, which arguably, and let's say it, not non-arguably, is a goal for everyone and should
Yes.
be every
Yes.
student period.
Yes.
But he was just really giving the example that like, the event where we bring in the folklore dancers for different months and different cultural groups isn't enough, right? We have to extend beyond that. But I always thought in the back of my mind, he was missing the point where it's like, let's celebrate that we did that. Let's take that as a step and then think, where else can we go with it?
Yes, absolutely. It's like that the cultural iceberg, right? Like it's recognizing like the and I almost even hate to use that phrase because I think we associate it with something else. Like surface level culture, and like it's the things like dress and food and music and flags and holidays and stuff like that, which is all good. It's an important piece of culture. So like to call it surface, it feels like artificial. It feels like, but it's so important. It's so important, and it should have time and space, like to have the recognition. But it's also like the deeper level culture things, like all of our interactions day to day, like just it's so many other things,
right? I mean, and it's like if we something like, okay, we have September 15th through October 15th. It's not the only time of the year that we should be acknowledging people of Hispanic origin. Like that's not where it stops. Like that should be infused through all of our work. As is, we don't just focus on, African Americans during the month of February.
Exactly.
We think about how does that play a role into everything we do, but we've kind of gotten into these thematic chunks.
Yeah. Yep.
And like, how do we push out of those boundaries a little bit?
Yes. So I know a lot of us are busy, like we're compiling a whole bunch, and I see a lot of people posting resources, and I'm like, yes, and I get so excited about it because I'm always stretching my, my bank of like resources and ideas and activities and stuff like that. So I'm so thankful every time someone shares one of those things because I'm like filing it away. But I'm trying to be so mindful now of like, okay, I'm going to take all of these compilations and I'm going to say, this is the one I'm going to do right now. And then this is one I'm going to put into this upcoming unit that happens in January or that happens in May or whatever. So that way I'm like, okay, I've got it all in front of me as like a big chunk. Where might this fit throughout the year? So this is a good time to pull out those calendars and those agendas that we all love. We all have our own teacher planners, right? So this is a cool time to like, since we're getting all of these resources presented to us, this is a good time to be like, all right, what works now? What's cool for now? And what's cool for later?
Yeah. Well, it's that time too, like as we're thinking about expanding maybe some of our range of text we're utilizing, and we think, oh, well, it's Hispanic Heritage Month. Let's use, text from Latino authors. We're like, you're right. Like, let's think about planning. How does that integrate into other units we're doing throughout the year? How do we bring that around where it's just embedded as part of our work? How do we bring in, right, Black authors now into this month?
Yes,
like,
absolutely.
There's a lot of crossover that we don't acknowledge.
Yes, absolutely. And I want to share two books, and I think you and I we've talked about both of them actually. But this one is really, really cool. This one is Spanish is the Language of My Family. And this is a cool book. This is like one that I definitely recommend for classrooms. Again, this is one that you could use now and later. The book kind of walks through a oh gosh, what's the word? A spelling bee. And this student is able to participate like in a Spanish language spelling bee, and he's feeling very empowered by his language. So this is a cool one to share as we talk about, our languages and our language identities. But this could also be one that we bookmark for later. Like if your school or district participates in a spelling bee, do you also offer a multilingual spelling bee? And like, this could be a great thing to mark in your calendar now. Like, we're going to go down that route.
How
I love
cool would that
that.
be?
Oh man, I've seen a few examples and like a few districts in Illinois, so I know folks are doing it. So if folks who are watching this tonight, if you have participated, either like you are part of like the organizing group that's doing this, like if you have thoughts, ideas, or considerations for other teachers who are interested in doing that, please share. Please share in the comments your anything. It could be anything, resources, questions, anything. The second book I have to share is one I'm like, I'm so like beyond excited about this book. And this one is new to me. And I just looked because I was like, I don't know if I missed this book. You know, sometimes like somebody posts a book and you're like, gosh, that's from 2018. Where was I? So I just looked. It was published this year. I just don't know when. But it's called How to Speak in Spanglish. And this book is phenomenal. And it made me think about students who are like, you know, they're utilizing their full linguistic repertoires, whether or not they're in a dual program or bilingual program or not, right? They still have all these linguistic assets.
Yeah.
And how like the students are exploring their linguistic identities, they're unpacking and exploring who they are as languagers. And how their language identity like shows up in different places and spaces, like with their family, but even within their family, like their siblings and maybe their parents and maybe their grandparents. And even within that one family, the generational differences and opinions about how we language and how we utilize our repertoire, right? Like it's and then also like school, but within school, right? The social interactions we have with peers
Mhm.
and the academic conversations we have with peers and how teachers perceive how we language. So this book goes through a whole lot. But I'm like, okay, so we have Hispanic Heritage Month starting this Friday. This is a great one to share with students. This would also be a great one to share with staff, because I think that's the other piece of all of this, right? Like as we grow in our cultural competencies, like we want to make sure we're bringing our colleagues into this work too, so that they can also join us in our quest to move beyond just the month, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you hit that there, and I've heard this from some teachers before with understanding the why we go into Hispanic Heritage Month now, and we're not acknowledging the Cinco de Mayo in the way that pop culture kind of does, and that you know a lot of our staff just don't have that professional learning themselves. So it's like we can't expect that to be taught to students if we're not aware of it as a whole. So I love that suggestion of taking some time starting with a read aloud in a staff meeting can be such a fun, powerful place to go, and it can lighten the mood a lot.
Totally, totally. And I love being read too. I love being read too. And it's so funny. Like I know you and I have talked about it too. Like picture books are for everybody, like every human being, all ages. And like I love moments where I can just sit down and hear a story or like read a story myself. Because like I think teachers like we love picture books so much. Like we go back, we're always looking for new titles to enhance our libraries and stuff. So I think that's so fun to be able to enjoy a book together. And like that could be like we could take it as like a 5-minute experience, or we could take it for like a 60-minute journey, right? Of like,
Yeah.
here's this story, let's unpack it now. Like what has happened to us as individuals, what has happened to, you know, students we serve or families we serve. Like we could take this all different ways. We could set up like an action plan based on this one book, right? There's just so many possibilities.
Yes, there are. Oh, so many. You know, and on that same lines of the two that you shared, which I'm really excited to get my hands on Spanglish. I ordered it, and hopefully it'll be here in 2 days. Because you know I live out in the middle of nowhere, so my Amazon takes a little bit longer. But I've become really fond of. I don't have any in front of me because they're right over here on my shelf. But author Rene Colato Lainez in his work with writes a lot, primarily bilingual books. Most of his books have English and Spanish text on the same page, with translanguaging infused in both sets of text. But all of the themes of his books are based on bilingual students. And so much of it is relatable to our kids in navigating language, right? Like one of, you might be familiar with his, Renee has two last names. And
Yes.
and
Yeah.
so that's when you can read it in Spanish or in English, and you still get the same message from that perspective of like, why do some people have two last names? And the important, he goes through the whole point in that book around dropping one of his last names feels like he's losing a part of his identity.
Yes.
And it's so moving. But I've really gotten fond of a lot of his other texts in the way that it explores language and culture in a way that many of our students are relating to right now.
Yes. Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. See, and I love when we can sit down and like have these conversations, because I'm like this could be part of like a whole, like, a whole unit, right? Oh my goodness. I love this. Let's talk a little bit about families. Because I know I've seen people are posting, they're starting to plan different events, either at the school level or at the district level, to celebrate the heritage of the community, which is so cool. Have you done anything like that, or like have you like how do we reach out to the families we serve so that like they have a voice and a role in this type of work for honoring our heritage?
I personally did not, and I'm somewhat regretful of that not being part of our work. There was a lot in the community offered, and so there was so much going on that it like didn't fully get into schools. But now I'm like thinking like, why wasn't it part of our schools? Even I was just driving a couple towns over, like an hour away, and but I saw a sign, like a yard sign on the street about like I can't even think, it was a fiesta something. I can't remember what it was, but I was like, and it cued me like, oh my gosh, there's stuff going on even here. And I didn't realize we had a large Spanish speaking population in that area of town. So it was like a really cool like connection, but it really did get me thinking about that. And then you bringing that up, it's like, I was not doing enough.
Well, and I don't want you or anyone watching to feel like if they're not doing that, you know what I mean? Like, because like you said, if events are already happening in the community, like that's that's amazing. And if we were to like say, okay, we're gonna do one too, are we gonna be pulling, from the same, community? So we don't want to do that either, or like overwhelm a community, or like remove the audience, or split the that type of thing. But like it's interesting because in my when I was in a district, there was no like district level, like we're all going to do this, or we're all going to host this one event. Over the years, there were some individual schools that were like, oh yeah, we're going to do this one thing. But I remember asking, like I had read a professional book, and I can't remember which one at the time, but it was like, ask your families that you serve for artifacts. And I was like, and for me, my brain associates the word artifacts with like historical things,
archaeology, like things.
Yes. And I was like, what does that mean? And there were no other like examples in the book. And so then I was like, okay. And so I was like, hey, families, do you have anything that you want to display or like, bring in? And again, I was like, what would somebody even bring in to like, what one item might represent a culture? And it felt very odd, but then I was so excited because so many families were like, yes, I want to bring in this, or like, I want to, share this one thing, or even like take a picture of it. Like, hey, master, I'm not going to send it in, but I'll text you a picture of the item. So that way you can just show it, right? That way we still have the item and it still stays like safe and, doesn't have all these germy hands on it. but it was really cool. And I was thankful that I was like, I don't even understand what this means, but I'll go ahead and see what happens. I was excited that I tried it because families were very excited to share. And especially for me, like I don't share that culture with the students that I serve. So it was very nice for me to be able to like, I'm just going to listen and learn from y'all. Like y'all are the experts, right?
And I think you bring a good point in too, though, that like we might not share the culture of our students, but we also have to make sure that we're not overgeneralizing that culture and assuming that everybody shares the same background or the same traditions. Because, you know, you and I might have very similar upbringings, but I'm going to guess that my family did stuff way different than your family, right? And it's so specific that we can't just blanketly say like, oh, you're Latino, you must celebrate in this way, right? Like
exactly.
this is exactly what's pushed us beyond, you know, within dual language programming, using like that term bicultural. Because like where are we at with that? What does that mean?
Right.
It gives us that place to really step back and say, like, what else? Like this is what we see here. This is what, you know, this family shares this, but somebody else's family doesn't need it, right? Because you could very easily segregate some of our students in this overgeneralization too. So we want to like walk that line carefully. There's no right or wrong answer in any of this. But.
Yes, right. But it's so important to like to be like cautious and conscious of like the like it's a possibility that like we could go down that route and we don't want to. So I think that's such a big piece of like the consideration. I think is so huge. And I love that example that you gave. Like you know, we might have had similar upbringing, like even like the way we celebrate birthdays or acknowledge birthdays might be really different, or like the way we might celebrate one holiday, like we might do it so different. So I love that example. I think that really helps me like kind of make sense of all of this.
Well, and I think I got really cued in us and on some of these differences my first year teaching, and I caught it in the way that like a lot of my families had celebrated Christmas and Valentine's Day. And I remember all of my colleagues, because I was, you know, a bilingual teacher in a very monolingual setting. And they're like, oh, what'd you get for Christmas presents? And I was like, I don't know, nothing. Like, just wasn't a thing. And I'm like, I wasn't expecting anything. But then I did not anticipate getting so much love on Valentine's Day. And I think, you know, we have to recognize that like not everybody's celebrating everything all in the same way.
Yes.
And this goes back, it's like we think about the whole Hispanic Heritage Month, like not everybody is going to associate with some of the large scale events that might be going on.
Yes, absolutely. Well, and it's interesting even to talk about like the timing of the month, because a lot of people get confused, like when we're saying like, okay, so it's half of September and half of October, and like, why is that? And correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember reading that like they said it was to try to be more inclusive of various countries' independence days. And so they wanted to like kind of have it fit into this type of window. And folks who are watching, or Rachel, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Give us all, because we're two non-Hispanics talking about Hispanic heritage.
Right, exactly.
A whole thing in its own, but we won't really go. I'm gonna get myself into trouble.
But like, right, we're on this journey of learning too, right?
Yeah, and like God could get us into a conversation around even some of that terminology around Hispanic, Latino, Latinx, and where we're going with that, and just you know, it all comes back to identity, and it's such an individual piece of information, and it's just a reminder to celebrate the identity of every single individual we have.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's like the perfect way to end this session is we're looking at honoring every student's identity. We're looking at honoring the identities of the families we serve. We're looking at also like, how do we build our own, as educators, as leaders, as agents of change in our spaces, how do we build our own awareness of like the things that we are doing to honor, recognize, and celebrate and elevate the identities of each other and those we serve. And not just this month, but
the whole year.
Every day.
And I would urge teachers and administrators to think about this. Celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month is such a meaningful and great opportunity. But let's also take note of what other languages and cultures we have in our school to make sure that we're recognizing them as well, because we don't need anybody feeling left out because we did a whole month on one thing and not on recognizing anybody else's. So goes back to getting to know our students. Like, how does everything come back to that?
Yes, I know, right? It comes full circle.
The more you know. What was that? The more you know. Was that like the little star? It's like NBC. The more you know.
That's right. That's right. I love it. Well, for everyone who was watching, thank you so much. If you have ideas, if you have activities, other considerations, other resources, please leave those in the comments so that we can kind of grow, everybody's bank of ideas and thoughts and questions and all of those things. But Rachel, thanks so much for hanging out with me tonight. This was so much fun as always. And then Wind Down Wednesday will return next week. So thank you so much, everyone, for watching. Have a great rest of your week.